Hi, good morning, Mega. Weather today is really nice. How are you, Mega? I'm good today. Thank you for asking. How about you? I'm very fine. By the way, we have so many friends here. I think before we start, let me greet one of my friend here. Um, Probably I will call uh, Salma Nurul Huda. Hi, Salma Nurul Huda. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you, Kak Desi? Hello?
I'm sorry, Salma, we cannot hear your voice. Is there any problem with your microphone?
Hello, am I audible now?
Mega, I think Salma has a problem with her mic.
So, I think we can just start it now, Miss Desi. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first session in a day of IRUD Summer Course 2022. First of all, before I start, I would like to remind all the students here to turn on your camera. Therefore, it is mandatory for the student to turn on their camera and to mute their microphone. Also, should any constraint be communicated to the LO or to the BIC name with PIC_name. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Desi Ramadhani. And I'm here with my friend Mega, and we are from the Department of International Relations, Universitas Diponegoro, Indonesia. Today we are going to be the host of this session with the esteemed speaker, Ibu Ika Riswanti Putranti from Universitas Diponegoro. There are four agenda for today. They are introduction, material presentation, ice breaking, and Q&A session. And there is a closing session at the end of this session. This session is going to be moderated by Mbak Palupi Anugrahini from International Relations Department Universitas Diponegoro.
Sorry, Titis, I couldn't hear your voice. Might you keep your microphone mute?
Am I audible, Miss Ika? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think somebody read the CV and I think it's you, but there is no sound here.
Okay, am I audible right now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Am I audible right now, Miss Ika? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me read it once again. Thank you so much for the reminder, Miss. So, okay, let me read it once again. So the moderator for today's session would be Miss Palupi Anggrahini SIPMA. Miss Palupi Anggrahini SIPMA is the lecturer of International Relations Department, Universitas Diponegoro. She obtained her bachelor's degree from the Universitas Brawijaya, majoring in international relations with focus on social and cultural development. And then she obtained her master's degree from the University of Gajah Mada majoring in international politics. If we look closer to both of her graduate and undergraduate thesis, Ms. Palupi focused on UNESCO culture with cultural and world heritage. And for her professional experiences, Ms. Palupi began her professional journey by doing her internship in International Relations Divisions of Indonesia's Police Headquarters in 2012. In 2016, Ms. Palupi becoming the interpreter at PUM Netherlands Senior Expert, and in 2017 until 2018, Ms. Palupi became the media analyst at Indonesia Indicator, in which she managed to analyze media through the big data or artificial intelligence systems. And in 2019 until 2020, she came back to her faculty in the Social Political Science Faculty of Universitas Brawijaya as a research assistant. So today, she became the lecturer of International Relations Universitas Diponegoro. As both a lecturer and researcher, Ms. Palupi has published several academic journals. They are first, UNESCO Considerations of Accepting Palestine Full Membership Status and Implication for World Heritage Recognitions. The second one, China's strategic roles over Arctic regions after US-Russia diplomatic drift in 2015, Crimean crisis. And the last one is collective manifestations of Eurosceptics parties and groups critical ideas in European Union treaties. So Ms. Palupi's research interest revolves around international politics, gender studies, European studies, cultural and world heritage. Therefore, without further ado, I think everyone here is really excited to meet Ms. Palupi. So without further ado, let me invite Ms. Palupi. Ms. Palupi, the screen and the time are yours now. Thank you, the operator.
Okay, thank you, MC Mega, for my short introduction and your reading my short CV. And I hope we can discuss our discussion today in a fruitful way. Thank you for your time. And right now, maybe before we start our discussion, let me greet Mbak Ika as our speaker. Hello, good morning, Mbak Ika.
Hi, good morning. Mbak Palupi, everyone there.
Greetings from, yes, thank you, Mbak Ika. Greetings from our TOC lab. Okay, I hope we can discuss our topic today in a fruitful way, Mbak Ika. Okay, before our discuss is started, I would like to read short curriculum vitae of our speakers today, Ms. Ika Riswanti Putranti, SH, PhD. Okay, the operator. Okay, thank you. In here, we can read Ms. Ika short curriculum vitae. At first, she is the awardee of Best Dissertation in 2013 Universitas Degree Studi in Ferrara, Italia. Ms. Ika is also the awardee of Young Researcher Fellowship in Università degli Studi di Ferrara, Italia. Awardee of Lemhanas RI Fellowship or Lembaga Ketahanan Nasional Republik Indonesia or National Resilience Institute batch 2015. Okay, for name and surname, the complete name of Miss Ika Riswanti Putranti is Ika Riswanti Putranti, IMD Eka, SH, PhD. She is the Associate Professor at Department of International Relations, Universitas Diponegoro, and working experience including first at Faculty of Social and Political Science Diponegoro University, Vice Dean, Faculty of Social and Political Science Diponegoro University, 2019 until 24, Senate faculty member and chairman of Cyber Resilience Institute. Okay, next. In her current institution, she is at International Relations Department, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Diponegoro University, and she was head of Department International Relations, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Diponegoro University at 2017 until 2022. She also becomes the Senate faculty member. Okay. On 2016 until 2017, Ms. Ika also represent as Secretary of International Relations Department of International Relations Department, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Diponegoro University, and she becomes the faculty member. Okay, back in 2014, Ms. Ika started her full lecture position and her activity field including international trade law, finance crimes, European Union law, international maritime law, international criminal law, introduction to legal science. Okay, she obtained doctoral program in social science, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Diponegoro University, and become full lecturer in April 2016 under present, and her activity field include foreign policy analysis and national resilience. Here is her brief curriculum vitae on 2040 until current. Okay, operator. Here, her research focus on 2014 perlindungan hukum produk pertanian lokal terhadap kejahatan perdagangan internasional dalam pasar bebas, and she become the chairman. Also in 2015, she joined the research about community fisheries legal framework, harmonisasi hukum perikanan kelautan di bawah konstruksi AEC dengan kerangka model kebijakan Uni Eropa terhadap penanganan IUU fishing. She becomes the chairman on DIPA Visit Undip 2015 funding. She has distinguished research until in 2018. She also write about cyber resilience and smart city in Kota Semarang. She becomes the head of research and the funding comes from Dana non-PNBB Undip 2018. Next. Here is Miss Ika publication. Range from buku pelindungan open source software in Indonesia in 2010, proceedings international conference paper, the role of EU generalized system of preference to discover trade relationship between ASEAN and EU, published by AU Center in Singapore. In 2013, she also write in Journal Hukum Single Market Legal Implication of the Regional Trade Facilitation in Journal Hukum Business in 2013. Next. Several writing by Ms. Ika, including in 2016, she write about EU regulation on illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing (AUU) implication for ASEAN Community Fisheries Legal Framework, Russian Journal of Comparative Law in 2016. She also wrote a book, The European Union's Generalized System of Preference, a better trade facilitation for beneficiary countries, published by European Press Academic Publishing in Florence, Italy in 2016. Here is several proceeding and attendance of conference by Ms. Ika, and we hope we have fruitful discussion about our topic today, environmental law and policy. I think it's the brief introduction for Ms. Ika's curriculum vitae, and I hope we can start our discussion in 1 minute after this. Thank you, operator. Okay, Ms. Ika, after this session, about short read of your curriculum vitae, I hope we can start our lecturing today, focused on for environmental law and policy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me open the discussion today on international relations summer course program in 2020, and today's discussion will be focused on environmental law and policy, and today's discussion will be presented by Ms. Ika Riswanti Putranti. Okay, our time and screen is yours, Ms. Ika. We have approximately 90 minutes for this session, including maybe you want to discuss with the participant. You will have time for 90 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Palupi, and good morning, very good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for asking me join this very good occasions on summer course. So everyone, the committee of the summer course asking me to have to deliver topics on environmental policy and wait a minute, I'm gonna share the environmental implementations of environmental law and policy in Indonesia and other states. So I think it's a very interesting topic for me. So that's why I accepted to be one of the speaker in this summer course, and I hope we can have further discussions about these topics, because nowadays, as we know that environmental becoming one of the main issue in international law or in national law, because as we know in national law we have in 2020 we have omnibus law, and this omnibus law also regulated the aspect of environment, and in international law we have so many what is called a regime that related and also that regulate the environmental issues. So in this topic, the first I'm going to discuss about the international dimensions of environmental law. The first we're going to discuss about the legal framework and development, and then the second we're going to discuss about the fundamental principle of international environmental law, because you know, understanding the fundamental principle of international environmental law, it will be useful for us when, if after you are graduate from your undergraduate program and you want to join maybe NGO, or you joining the government, or you joining the activism that advocating the issue on environmental, I think understanding the fundamental principle, it will help you to communicate, to advocate the problems of environmentals. And then we're going to discuss who are the environmental actors in international law. What about the governance of environmental laws? And the last one is the most important issues. As we know, there is SDGs, there is issues of sustainability, there is issues of environmental impact assessment. So we're gonna to discuss about the relations between environmental and human rights. Okay. First, about the legal framework and development. If we talk about the environmental law, the genesis of environmental law, we can trace back to the 3100 before Christ. This is BC, is not before Corona. BC is before Christ. The very beginning of the law of nations, or we call it now as international law, the law that regulates among the nations. In 3100 BC, treaty setting a literal water war. This is about the water resources between two Mesopotamian city-states in Iraq. We know that Mesopotamian city, there is a very a big or huge river in Iraq, in Mesopotamia. And the issue of water is becoming the main concern of the inhabitants, because water is the source of life. It's about the agricultures, it's about their daily life, and etc. That's why if we trace back to the 3001 BC, literal water wars between two Mesopotamian cities can be the milestone of what we call now as the international environmental law. And then along with the development of the civilizations in 16th centuries, 17th century, sorry, the Hugo Grotius, the father of modern international law, as we know, he established doctrine freedom of seas in his monumental treatise Mare Liberum, the freedom of the sea. Even before the emergence of the modern state, later in that century, there's the state modernhood after the Hugo Grotius postulate. If we see now that the issue environment regarding the sea, we know there's the regulations about sea conservations is according of sea donations. There is some donation in sea and it's given implications, each donation of what we call as a regime. For instance, in territorial water, when the state, they have their full sovereignty, and when in the economic exclusive zone, the state only have the sovereign rights. And also the rights beyond the national jurisdictions in the high seas. How to regulate? We know there is a problem. For instance, the waste and the sewage that is thrown to the sea, the maritime pollutions, and etc. It is also the problem in the sea. But it's already the main concern of Hugo Grotius in the 17th century. And then in the 18th century and early 20th century, the treaties began to take account of environmental values other than human consumptions, but it's only sporadically. And then, well, here we are in, this is the first time what we call as international regime of environmental law start to begin in 1970, yeah, where the international law largely left the environment alone on the theory that individual countries have sovereignty. We know that state is the supreme power, complete supreme and independent political and legal control over their natural resources, just as they do over persons, businesses, and other entities and activities their territory. You can read in the ILC draft on the state responsibility that state has the obligations to ensure that every activities inside their territory is not what is called give an impact, give an effect to other country or to their neighboring country. This is also related to one of the fundamental principle of international law, which is what we call is do no harm. We will discuss it later. And then there is a most prominent statement of these nationalities or status view. This is the status view because the state is the central actors of the international environmental law. Found that the best known international environmental legal authority on the principle 21 of the Stockholm Declaration said that states have, in accordance with the Charter of United Nations and principle of international law, the sovereign rights to exploit their own resources pursuant to their own environmental policy. Therefore, it's resulted some what we call as a soft law. Yeah. In 1972, there is Stockholm Declarations. This is the foundations of international environmental law. And then in 1982, World Charter for Natures, where the states are obliged to respect the natures. And then 1992, Rio de Janeiro declarations. This is the one of the milestone where it's what is called as the fundamental basis of what we know as millennial development goals, and then now is what is called as sustainable development goals, and also Johannesburg declarations. And then this is the soft law. And speaking about the soft law instrument, within the soft law, there contains some what we call as a fundamental principle that it should be reiterated by each state within their what is called national legal framework. The first of all, state sovereignty. State sovereignty means that states have their authority, what is called to regulate their environment resources within their territory, yeah, for their national interest and to contribute to their role in the global community. And the second is good neighborliness. This is the duty to cooperate. This is enshrined among the Article 1 peacekeeping purposes of the UN Charter, that to achieve the international cooperation is solving international problem of economic, social, culture, or humanitarian characters. Therefore, in the UN Assembly, it is recognized that the state have the duty to cooperate with one another, irrespective of the differences in their political, economic, social system, in order to maintain international peace, security, and to promote international economic stability and progress. The general welfare of nations and international cooperations free from discriminations based on such differences. This is about good neighborliness. So this principle is mandated the country to cooperate what is called one another. And then about the principle no harm rule. No harm rule is the most basic prescriptive rule and the backbone of international environmental law, because according to this principle, states have obligations not to cause or allow environmental harm outside their border. The no harm rule. So as we know that there is environmental issues regarding the deforestations in Indonesia, regarding the haze, and then it's causing the effect in our neighborhood countries, for instance, Malaysia and Singapore. And then Singapore, they do what we call as a security sessions due to the environmental issue, because they want to protect their citizens, and then they establish an act about the haze pollutions from Indonesia. This is very interesting because they consider that the activities that took place in our country, in Indonesia, has endangering their community, endangering their environments. So therefore, because they have the obligations to protect their country, then they make what is called as an act, enact an act or a law. So the no harm rule is based on the time-honored common principle. This is for a common law principle. Sic utere tuo ut alienum non laedes. One should use one's own property so as not to injure another. So according this rule, that the state or we need to make sure that all activities that is exercised within the jurisdiction or within the territory of the country should not harming the territory of another country. And then the next one is the principle on sustainable development. The most significant change in international law in recent years is the emerging of sustainable development as the new international paradigm for balancing society often conflicting environmental. So as we know that in sustainable development, there is some aspect, there is an environmental aspect, economic and social aspirations. The Indonesia adopted the sustainable development concept within our national legislations by president's regulations. It is called in bahasa as pembangunan berkelanjutan or sustainable development. The Indonesian government now, recently actually, or currently, they make the sustainable development to be an obligations implemented by the agency under the government, including the university. Now, what is the university in Indonesia? They are trying to integrate it, what we call as the sustainable principle into their strategical plan and into their budget to or public expenditure when they want to build something or to develop something, because they have the obligations to make the sustainability report every years, including Undip. Yes. And then speaking about right to development. Okay. Right to development, actually, this is the controversial claim that countries should recognize a right to development, should not to be confused with the concept of sustainable development. So right of development is something else, but sustainable development is also something else. The right development is the major plank in the political agenda of many countries, and actually it is representing two rights in one. The first is relative concept, sovereignty-based notions that individual states have the right to control their own economy and their own path of development. We know there is in Indonesia, we have what it's called as rencana pembangunan jangka panjang, is the long-term development goals. So this is part of the role of the state to determine the goals of their developments. And this is also the manifestations as the state obligations to ensure that the development will deliver a welfare for its citizen. And then the right to clean and healthful conditions. Actually, this principle is already accommodated in Indonesia constitutions, as we know in the article of 28 I 28I, 28I. This is regulating about the right to clean and healthful environment for its citizen in Indonesia. It is guaranteed by the constitutions. And then environmental justice and intergenerational and intergenerational. Speaking about the principle, this is talking about intergenerational equity or equitable treatment between the generations. So we should manage the risk for the future generations. So what we do not, it should not giving a burden for the next generations. So regarding this environmental justice is already have adopted by some national law or agency in Indonesia. It is manifested in the our environmental law, in our constitutions, even in our sustainable development regulations. And this is about the equity of also equity, everything. If we discuss about the equity, some this principle we need to ensure that all of the activities regarding the environment, it should be reasonable, it should be measurable, and it should not deliver more burdens to the next generations. And then the equitable utilizations of shared resource. Yeah, this is also one of the problem in the developing country, especially in Indonesia. We know that natural resources is one of the conflicts, especially land, waters. So in the environmental law, it should accommodate what we call as equitable utilizations of shared resources. In international perspective, we know that many of Earth resources are physically shared by one or more states, including international water courses, the oceans, migrating wildlife, transboundary ecosystem, atmosphere, and stratosphere. That's why we know there is some principle in international law, especially if we are talking about high seas. There is a principle of common heritage of mankind. When we talk about the deep seabed mining, that the result of the seabed mining, it is due to the manifestations of the common heritage of mankind. It should be delivered for the welfare of all countries, of all individuals. So when we are speaking about the equitable utilization of shared resource in Indonesia, we can see in our constitutions in Article 33. We're going to discuss later about the equitable utilizations, how this is implemented, how this is mandated by the constitutions. And then conservations. Speaking about the conservations, a great body of international environmental treaty law requires the conservations and preservations of natural areas, spectacular scenic wonder, paleontological, cultural, historic site. Speaking about conservations, for instance, we know there is some natural area or natural area of preservation and conservation. For instance, underwater, we know in Indonesia we have a Wakatobi, we have a Raja Ampat, and some other places that they have areas under waters that needs to be conserved and needs to be preserved to their what is called as what is called in English terumbu karang. I lost my English, I lost my translations. Okay. And then speaking about conversations, we can also include the object, the heritage object under the waters. There's a lot of heritage object under the waters, and this is part of conservations, and it's also applied by the it is also enshrined under the principle of common heritage of mankind. And the next principle is related to the principle before about the common heritage of mankind, the global common, as I mentioned before. And then usually this concept common heritage of mankind, this is applied for the national beyond the jurisdictions. And then common concern of humankind, erga omnes, this is especially related to the human rights. And common but differentiate responsibility. This is related to the state's responsibility. Polluter play principle, this is related to the remedy when there is environmental damage. And the last one is the state responsibility and liability. We know there's a state responsibility until law is still draft under the ILC 1949. And then the next, beside the fundamental substantive principle, there is a fundamental procedural principle. If there is a dispute, there is a problem related to environments. So if you want to, if a state wants to establish the act regarding the environment, it is need public participations, because environments is about everybody's life. And the second is prior notifications, consultations, and negotiations if there is a And the third is the prevention principle. Prevention principle, it is important that every development or every actions regarding the environmental, it is need to be done according to the feasibility studies to prevent something that we don't want. It is that we don't want to be happen. And also the precautionary principle. Precautionary principle is also important to ensure that every activities that related to the environments, it's already managed or mitigate about the risks that might happen in the futures. And then this is about the environmental impact assessment. This AEA is amplified by European unions. The environmental impact assessment now is becoming obligatory for the company when they want to do the activities that may give the impact to the environments. And duty to adopt effective national law, the duty to enforce. Well, we already have the law in Indonesia about environment, about the environment management. We're going to discuss later. And the last one is about integrations principle. So speaking about governance, speaking about actor in international law, there is a state, of course, and then international institutions under the international environmental regime. We know there is some international organizations, for example, UNEP, maybe also UNDP also included, and also FAO, FEO, Food and Agricultural Organizations, and some other international organizations under the UN. And then regional organizations, we know EU, ASEAN, some Latin America organizations, and then non-state actors, we know WWF and other international NGO or national NGO. And then subnational actors, local government, of course, local government also have the central, what is called, role due to the some authority that it is given to them to manage the environmental surrounding their area. And then epistemic community, the expert, for instance, in international relations or in international law, because they given an authority, they are an expert, and they may give the what is called a critical thinking, or maybe their expert opinion, so then it might influence the policymakers. It's very important, the role of epistemic community. That's why this is also part of the epistemic community when we discuss about environmental law in summer course. So sorry, so we also play the important role regarding the international environmental policy. I hope that the summer course will result in something that's fruitful for the policymaker. Maybe we can suggest some ideas that is resulting from these discussions of the summer course. And then business and industry, of course. Business and industry, their activities and also their role. We know that in the company law, they mandated about the corporate social responsibility. And nowadays, this is not only corporate social responsibility. Nowadays, if you read the paper from the shooter, there is an issue about human rights and business. In Indonesia, we have already the plan of actions of human rights and business. And then the last one is also important. The indigenous people. We will discuss the indigenous people later. I prepare some movies that we can see the role of the indigenous people in the environmental law and also regarding the climate change. So speaking about the environment and human rights. The early recognitions of the link between human rights and environmental protections began in 1968 UN Assembly resolutions that mentions, and then it's advanced through the 1969 declarations on progress development in social area. And then as I mentioned before, in 1972, there is a UN Stockholm Conference on Human Environment, which formally promulgated the right to environment as an aspect of human rights. The Stockholm Declaration stipulated that man has the fundamental rights of to freedom, equality, and adequate conditions of life in an environment, a quality that's permit a life of dignity and well-being. And he bears a solemn responsibility to protect and improve the environment for present and future generations. Well, this is also the problem because there is the absence of state practice. So UN Stockholm declarations is not recognized as the international customary law or customary of international law. And then in 1980s, there is a positive development in the UNESCO Symposium on the Human Rights, where they identified the right to healthy and ecological balanced environment as the solidarity rights. And then in 1982, the UN Assembly resolutions entitled World Charter for Nature, as I mentioned before, upon member inter alia to respect nature and avoid impairing its essential product. And then the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, as we know as Earth Summit, and then it's called as Rio de Janeiro Conference. It consists of 179 countries. They focus on human socio-economic activities of on the environment. This Rio de Janeiro conference, they highlight about how different social, economic, and environmental factors are interdependent and evolve together, and how success in one sector requires actions in other sectors to be sustained over time. That's why this the actor that I mentioned before, it can be the architecture, the basis architecture of the international environment governance. And this is the recognitions the environments as human right by the international organizations and government. Well, this is by European Parliamentary Conference on Human Rights in 1970s, and then the African Charter on Human Rights in Kenya by the Organization of African Unity Conference of Head of State and Government, and then it incorporated the right all people to general satisfactory environment favorable to their development. And then in Indonesia in 1983, by the first General Assembly of the Regional Council of Human Rights in Asia, adopted the declarations on the basic duty of Asian people and governments, which impose duty on governments and people to preserve nature's resource for the future generations and prevent environmental degradations. So in Indonesia, we already start, actually long before, as we see in our constitutions. And then in 1986, it's also in the American Commissions on Human Rights proposed a draft additional protocol to the American Conventions on Human Rights in the area of economic, social, and cultural rights, which was eventually adopted in 1988, that included a right to live a healthy environment and obligating the state parties to promote the protections, preventions, and improvement of the environment. So Europe, Africa, Inter-America, and then in Asia, Indonesia, there is a cross-continent recognitions the environment as human rights. Okay, now we move to the after from the international dimensions. We're going to discuss about the national dimensions. Well, my specific reference is Indonesia. The first we're going to discuss about the national legal framework, and then the stakeholders, and then we will discuss about the adat recht, or we call it as the customary law. This is about the role of the indigenous peoples in climate change in Indonesia. And then we're going to discuss about the future generations that at risk due to the environmental impact. And then the last one is the challenge and opportunities on environmental issue. Well, on this future generation at risk, maybe if you have the other information or you have different opinion, we can discuss this in a discussion session. And also about the challenge in Indonesia and the opportunity regarding the environmental issue. If you have other opinion or you have other ideas, you can deliver it in our Q&A session. So, speaking about the environmental right, the healthy environmental right, we can see in Indonesia constitutions, we can read that speaking about the environment, speaking about the natural resources, and all the things that related to these both things, it is very close to what we call as a sovereign. For instance, if we want to speak about the land, if we want to speak about the water resources, if we want to speak about the air, if we want to speak about the minerals, if we want to speak about forest management, if we want to speak about the sea, this is under territory, under jurisdictions, under the sovereignty of the state. In Indonesia, speaking about sovereignty, the sovereignty, it is very clear that sovereignty shall be vested in the hands of people, of its citizens, and it is be executed according to the constitutions. So every manifestations of the sovereignty, it should be take into account what we call as public participations, and also it should be accordance to the constitutions. And then speaking about the national economic and social justice, this is very close to what we call as environment issues. Why? Economic, social, political, and environments is something that have close relations. In our constitutions, Article 33 about the national economy and social justice, it stipulated that the economy shall be structured as a joint enterprise by the virtue of the principle of kinship. We call it in bahasa as asas kekeluargaan. But this is not nepotism. This is a cooperations. Kinship is different than nepotism. And then the second, about the production sector, important for the state and vital for the livelihood of the people at large, shall be controlled by the state. We know this is manifested in what we call estate enterprise. For instance, if we speak about the fuel, about the natural gas, or geothermal, or if we speak about energy, if we speak about waters, if we speak about forests, this is the production sector that regulated by the state under what we call as state-owned enterprise, or we call it in bahasa is BUMN. Well, if you have an opinion regarding this matter, we can discuss later in the Q&A sessions. And then the third is about the land, waters, natural wealth content. It shall be controlled by the state and utilized for the optimal welfare of the people. Optimal welfare. Speaking about land is about environment. Speaking about water is also environment. Natural wealth, the minerals, and maybe others natural wealth is also one of the cause of the environmental problem in Indonesia. And then the last one, that the national economy shall be conducted by the virtue of economic democracy under the principle of togetherness instead of competitiveness, efficiency with justice, sustainability, environment insight. So environment insight, this is mandated under Article 33 of Indonesia Constitutions, and an autonomy as well as by safeguarding the balance of progress and national economic unity. And then about human rights, we know in the Article 28 is accommodating or regulating about the human right, the recognitions of human right under Indonesia constitutions. It's very clear in 28A, it is mentioned that every person shall be entitled to live and be entitled to defend his or her life and living. And then in the Article 28H, it stated that in the paragraph 1 that every person is entitled to live prosperous physical and spiritually, to have a place to reside, and to acquire a good and healthy living environment, as well as be entitled to obtain healthcare. If we mention these provisions, this article, this is reflected that Actually, the Indonesia Constitution is mandated what we call as a welfare state for its citizens. And then after the constitutions, we have the Act number 32, 2009. This is concerning protections management of the environment. It is stated that protections and management of the environment shall be systematic, integrated effort to preserve the environment and prevent pollutions and or damage to environment, of which including planning, utilizations, control, maintenance, supervisions, and enforcement of law. In the Article 2, one of the provisions under this act stipulated that about some principle about the protections and management of environments. It's what we already studied about the principle under environmental law, under international environmental law. This is the substantive. So they adopted the substantive principle that we already mentioned before. First, about state responsibility, sustainable preservations, harmony and balance, integrations, benefits, prudence, justice, ecoregions, biodiversity, polluter subject to paying. This is about this incentive. This is about the sanctions. Participations, democracy, local wisdom, the recognitions of indigenous people, of their adat rights, good governance, and the last one is about the regional autonomy, the autonomy given to the local governments to the mandate of the Autonomy Act after in 1999, because Indonesia got the Big Bang adoptions of decentralizations after the centralistic system that they already been through for 32 years. So under this Act number 32, 2009, there is, it's mentions about the protections, the aims of the protections and management of the environments. This is about to protect the territory of the state from pollutions or damage of the environment. And then to ensure the safety, health, and life of humans. To guarantee the continuity of the life of living creatures and preservation of ecosystem. And then to preserve the environmental functions. And then to achieve harmony, synchronizations, and balance of the environment. To guarantee justice, legal certainty for the sake of present and future generations. And then to ensure the compliance with the protections of right to environment as part of human rights. Compliant, that's why we need an environmental impact assessment to ensure that, for instance, corporate that they have the activities give impact to the environment, they should be high compliance and low risk, because we can mitigate maybe the infringements on harassment towards human rights. And then the control to use the use of natural resources on a wise basis. To realize sustainable development. And the last one is to anticipate any global issues on environment. For instance, we are speaking about the issue of climate change. So, according to the Act number 32, 2009, this is the scope of protections and the management of environments. It's including planning, including how in the planning mechanism that we should integrated public expenditures for the green economy to ensure that every penny of our public expenditures will be used to support the sustainable development, to support the sustainability of the environment. And the second is about utilizations. For instance, utilizations of the energy, natural resources, and utilizations of the government budget. It is included for the green economy. And then control, supervision, scrutiny over the activities toward environments, and then maintenance, supervisions, and the last one is law enforcement. So this is the scope of protections and management of environments from the upstream to the downstream. And we also have the beside the Act number 32, 2009, we have the government regulations number 22, 2021. This is concerning the implementations of the protections and management of the environment. This government regulations regulates environmental approval. This is related to the license and its mechanisms, water quality protections and management, because water is one of the most important resources. Air quality, air is also the most important. We know we have bad air pollutions, especially in our capital city, to the traffic, to the industrializations, and also human activities there. And then marine quality protections and management. We know that 2/3 of Indonesia maritime territory consists of waters. As an archipelagic state, this is very important. The marine has a crucial role in our nation daily life. And then environmental damage control, hazardous waste management, and non-battery waste management. This is because of the industrializations and all the activities related. And then guarantee fund for the restorations and environmental functions. This is related to the remedy. Environmental information system, guidance and supervisions, and impositions of administrative sanctions. So if you broke or if you violate the law under these government regulations, the government may invoke your license or your permit or maybe your business activities. Okay, next, this is the national stakeholder. We have private sector, company, industry, or maybe small, medium enterprises. Yeah, this is the private sectors. In agriculture, we have a farmer, we have animal breeder. Yeah, and then government. There is a central government. We have also local governments, and then individuals, NGO, and communities, including indigenous people, including universities, epistemology, communities, also including in the community. And then this is one of the what is called actors related to the environments. We're going to speak about the indigenous people, about the adat reks, or we call it as hukum adat, or we call it as customary law. The role of indigenous people in climate change. So what is indigenous people? How many indigenous people in Indonesia? Where are they live? How did they end up in the positions to fight against environmental destructions? Indigenous people are culturally distinct societies and community. Although they make up approximately 60%, sorry, 6%, 6% is a lot because we have like 7 billion population inhabited in this earth. 6% of global populations. They account for about, so it is for 600 million people. It's called as the indigenous people. 600 is like twice inhabitants of Indonesia. They account for 90% of the extreme poor. They have very difficult situations of economics. And these indigenous people, they speak more than 4,000 of the world languages because of the diversity of the indigenous people. And we should see what in Indonesia. This is the definitions of indigenous people. It's usually related but distinguishable for terms like aborigines, native tribes, First Nations, ethnic minority, traditional, scheduled group, local community, etc. Because it can be difficult because the movement, invasions, mingling have characterized human settlement. Indigenesis, in terms with no single agreed definitions in international practice, the prevailing view today is that no formal definitions is necessary for the recognitions and protections of their rights, substituting instead factor analysis. You can see in the World Bank definitions about the indigenous, about the self-identifications, collective attachment to geographical distinct habitats or ancestral territory in the area to the natural resources in this inhabitant and territory, and then customary, cultural, economic, social, or political institutions that are separated from those of the dominant society and culture, and then possessions of indigenous language, which is often distinct from national language. Self-identifications as indigenous or tribal is also considered a fundamental criterion and represent the practice follows in the UN. Specifically, we can see in the Article 33 in the Declarations of the Right on the Right of Indigenous People codifies the right of indigenous people to determine their own identity or membership in accordance with their custom and tradition. So it is guaranteed under the UN, under the international law. So this is the definitions of indigenous people according to the World Bank. This is the criterion according to the World Bank, but this is the compact definitions of indigenous people. Indigenous people are distinct social and cultural groups that share collective ancestral ties to the land and natural resources where they live, occupy, or from which they have been displaced. The land and natural resources on which they depend are inextricably linked to their identity, cultures, livelihoods, as well as their physical and spiritual well-being. They often subscribe to their customary leaders and organizations for representations that are distinct or separate from those of the mainstream society or cultures. So this is the word indigenous people. As I said, there is 6% of the world populations. So maybe it's estimated between 6 million, but according to the valid source, it is estimated by 476 million indigenous people worldwide. Indigenous people often lack of formal recognition over their land, territories, and natural resources, are often last to receive public investment in basic services and infrastructures, and face multiple barriers to participate fully in the formal economic, enjoy access to justice, and participate in the political process and decision making. This legacy of inequality and exclusions has made indigenous people more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change and natural hazard, including disease outbreaks such as COVID-19. Vulnerabilities to the pandemic are exacerbated in some cases by lack of access to national well, water, sanitation, the shutting down of market, mobility restrictions that have greatly impacted their livelihoods, food insecurity, and well-being, because usually they live in the forest and in a remote area. Indigenous people under threat. While indigenous people own, occupy, or use quarter of the world's surface area, they safeguard 80% of the world remaining biodiversity because they hold vital ancestral knowledge and expertise on how to adapt, mitigate, and reduce climate and disaster risks. Much of the land occupied by the indigenous peoples is under customary ownership. We call it as tanah adat or tanah hak ulayat in bahasa. Yet many governments recognize only a fractions of this land as formally or legally belonging to the indigenous people. Even when indigenous territory and land are recognized, protections of boundary or use and exploitation of natural resources are often inadequate. We can see later. I will present a very short movie about Semuying. We can see what happened to them, to their land. Insecure land tenure is the driver of conflict, environment degradations, and weak economy and social development. This threatens cultural survival and vital knowledge system. Loss in this area, increasing risk of fragility, biodiversity loss, and degraded One Health or ecological and animal health system, which threaten the ecosystem services upon we all depend. Most of the indigenous people, what they do to survive mostly are food gathering. They are depend on the natures. If the natures damage, so well, they will lose their food sources. This is the main problem why they still live under the poverty. Speaking about indigenous people in Indonesia, indigenous people in Indonesia have inhabited this archipelago a long time before, even before Indonesia as a state is established. Before the religions, before the culture, the modern culture came. Despite having different beliefs and ways of life, most of the indigenous people live and become part of forests. Suku anak dalam, Dayak tribes. In Indonesia, there is 2,161 indigenous community. There are 70 million indigenous people in Indonesia. It's like 1/3 of the Indonesia populations. They are indigenous people. This is the inhabitations of indigenous people in Indonesia. We can see in region of Sumatra, there is a 392 Adat community. In Kalimantan, 700, the biggest in Kalimantan, because this is 772. And then the second in Sulawesi, 664. And then in the regions of Maluku, it is 176. In Papua, there is 69, but I guess it's more. Region Bali and Nusa Tenggara, 253. And then regions of Java, if 55 indigenous people. Speaking about adat, right, about customary law, it is very clear, recognized under the article of 18B of the Indonesia Constitutions. It is stipulated that the state shall recognize and respect entities of adat law societies along with their traditional rights to the extent they still exist and are in accordance with the development of the society and the principle of the unitary state of the Republic of Indonesia, which shall be regulated by laws. In Article 28I, paragraph 3, 4, and 5, stated that the cultural identity and the right of traditional society shall be respected in harmony with the development of the age and civilizations. The protections, advancement, enforcement, and fulfillment of human rights shall be the responsibility of the state, particularly the government. Protections, advancement, enforcement, and fulfillment of human rights of the indigenous people. And then for the enforcement and protections of human rights in accordance with the principle of democratic state based on law, the execution's human rights shall be guaranteed, regulated, and set out in statutory rules and regulations. So it is very clear. The recognitions of the adat community, the recognitions of the indigenous people under the Indonesian constitutions, and the mandate to give them protections, advancement, enforcement, even the fulfillment of human rights by the government. So I would like to prod you all to see the indigenous people and the environmental destruction cases. This is in Utik River in Kalimantan. So before I present the movie, this is the introductions that the Dayak Iban, the Iban Dayak people of Sungai Utik West Kalimantan, they have successfully fought off loggers, illegal logging, and the land invader for their home forests. The effort of the Sungai Utik community to sustainably manage their community forests in the face of large-scale deforestations, including cultural loss in Kalimantan, have won award. If you see, you can see the movie, but if not us, then who? Including last month, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, give them becoming the winner, the awardee of Program Equator Prize. The Dayak Iban Sungai Utik tribes It is located in village in Batu Lintang, Kapuas Hulu Regency, West Kalimantan. Actually, this is in the Indonesian border between Indonesia and Malaysia. Have conserved more than 6,000 hectares of all rainforests in their 9,460 hectares of adat forests. They practice traditional custom that limit where to hunt, how many trees they harvest for personal use, how they use fire, and where they plant. Indigenous forests are a source of fresh waters, food, and renewable forest product for the community, and serve as buffer for the nearby Betungkerihur National Park. So this is Sungai Utik. This is the Daya Ibat. Yeah. Wait a second. I will what is called present wait a second. Okay.
Miss Ika, do you want to share some audio and video?
Yeah. Is it okay? Do you hear the voice?
Yes, but it pause now.
Yeah. Okay. I will. Okay.
If not, then
di mana nggak ada hutannya itu rasanya tuh sedihnya luar biasa. Adanya sawit masuk, kami itu sama keluarga dan dapur, dan kami itu merasakan betapa pentingnya hutan bagi kami masyarakat adat, terutama untuk mencari bahan-bahan seperti anyaman, rotan, untuk bikin tanggul, untuk bikin tikar, kami udah nggak ada lagi. Hutan kami udah hilang itu, kapan lagi bisa kembali seperti semula itu susah. Sebagai orang Dayak itu, identitas kita kan tanah adat, hutan adat. Kalau kita orang Dayak, tempat hutan adat itu tidak ada maknanya. Jadi kalau dulu di kampung tuh dingin sekali karena hutan adat itu atau hutan masih lebat, kompak, rukun dalam kampung. Mana satu kampung tuh ibaratnya satu keluarga besar juga. Sawit yang datang hari ini itu membawa masalah sebagai kami.
nah, timbul datang PT Lidu Lestari yang tidak pernah ada sosialisasi apa dan sebagainya. Datang menyerang. Kita akan lihat alat-alat mereka datang ke sini 2004 itu dipertanyakan oleh masyarakat. Ini alat ini mau kemana? Alat berat nih. Kita mau buat jalan lintas kabupaten. Itu alasan mereka. Lahan hutan itu semua ditebang semua. Kehidupan masyarakat sini terhancam sampai ke tanah-tanah masyarakat. Makin hari makin menjadi penggusuran itu. Padi sedang menguning, belum sempat mau panen, habis digusur. Besok paginya melihat tidak ada lagi. Karet hari ini ditoreh, besok pagi melihat sudah tidak ada lagi karet. Itu penderitaan. Tempat rumah ibadah dirobohkan sama alat-alat berat. rumah-rumah warga itu dibakar. Itu kekejaman perusahaan ini. Sangat luar biasa yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan ini.
Lalu digusurnya rumah kami langsung dibakar. Langsung dibakar oleh Pak manajernya, Pak asistennya pun lihat di situ juga. Melihat mereka membakar rumah itu. Sudah tumbang rumahnya, sudah dibakar mereka. Pas anak saya minta hukum adatnya, cuma dibayarnya 50.000 satu ekor ayam aja. Habis dia bakar rumah saya tuh, saya dengan ibu itu nangislah di situ. Karena namanya bekas ibu mertua kita. Di situ semua kenang-kenangan. Saya bilang, karet saya jangan digusur lah Pak. Ini jangan ditebang lah Pak. Ya enggak lah Bu, katanya. Sekali saya pergi, tanah pur ini sudah habis. Ya Kak? Ya. Baru saya pergi dan betul-betul sudah habis digusur itu. Tanpa pengetahuan saya Pak, digusur itu. Ini adalah lokasi pemakaman umum Semenyung Bungkang, Dusun Parih, Desa Semenyung Jaya. Tahun 2009, lokasi ini dibabat oleh perusahaan. Dulu dia tanam sampai dekat kubur ini, ya dia tanam sawit. Jadi kita tidak terima dengan pihak perusahaan itu. Kalau yang meninggal kemana lagi mau nguburnya? Bagaimana lah kalau kejam dengan tempat pemakaman gitu.
Jadi kita mulai beraksi, masyarakat itu 2005 itu mulai beraksi menghentikan kegiatan mereka. Suruh mereka sosialisasi dulu pada masyarakat. Dan kita juga sempat menghentikan kegiatan mereka, menahan alat berat mereka. Tapi itu yang dituduh oleh perusahaan itu terhadap kita itu perampasan dan pemerasan. Apa yang kita rampas, apa yang kita peras terhadap mereka.
Dan kemudian kita ditahan selama 10 hari, tahanan jail dan tahanan kota 20 hari. Yang tidak boleh keluar Bengkayang. Karena kami dikriminalkan, ini alasan apa? Ya, dasar mempertahankan hak itu salah atau mempertahankan hak.
Nah, dan berkaitan dengan perlakuan kami di di dalam sel itu, di dalam penjara itu, kami diperlakukan yang tidak wajar lah, tidak manusiawi. Kami selalu dihancam-hancam oleh aparat-aparat di dalam sel itu. Karena kami itu sudah melawan negara katanya. Negara mana yang kami lawan? Bapak Ibu saudara-saudara sekalian, kedaulatan masyarakat adat Nusantara telah diperjuangkan jauh sebelum negara Kesatuan Republik Indonesia terbentuk. Jika ada masalah dengan masyarakat adat dengan perusahaan-perusahaan ini, negara juga lepas tangan. Dan bahkan kalau masyarakat adat melakukan perlawanan terhadap perusahaan-perusahaan yang mendapat izin dari pemerintah ini, mereka pun dihadapkan dengan aparat negara, dengan polisi, dengan tentara. Ya, mereka ditangkap, mereka dipenjarakan, menjadi penjahat. Nah, inilah situasi masyarakat adat saat ini. Dan konflik yang terjadi ini terjadi di seluruh pelosok Nusantara ini. Itulah sebenarnya tantangan yang dihadapi oleh bangsa ini ke depan. Bahwa bangsa ini tidak boleh membiarkan masyarakat adat tetap terjajah, tetap terdiskriminasi, tetap menjadi warga negara kelas paling rendah di dalam dalam kehidupan berbangsa dan bernegara. Sebab kalau ini tetap berlanjut, maka ancaman terbesar justru bukan hanya kepada masyarakat adat, tapi juga terhadap kehidupan kita sebagai bangsa.
Saya yakin dan percaya bahwa perjuangan kami ini tidak berakhir begitu saja. Supaya perjuangan kami ini juga selama 12 tahun ini, semoga Tuhan itu memberi titik terang yang jelas. Selagi kami tidak pernah merugikan masyarakat, saya yakin bahwa perjuangan suami saya dan teman-teman seperti Pak Sekdes sama Pak BPD, Pak Jamaludin, atau dengan masyarakat yang mendukung dia, pasti akan berhasil.
Kalau kita kan ada tanah kan cabai enggak beli, daun ubi enggak beli, sayur banyak. Karena kita biasa bertani, biasa mencari ikan, mencari binatang, bercocok tanam, itu payah mau dihilangkan katanya. Karena kebiasaan kita turun-temurun. Ya sekarang banyak masyarakat kita yang udah habis tanah dicaplok oleh perusahaan ini, ya mereka masa bingung gitu.
Kami ini pernah dijanjikan oleh perusahaan itu plasma. Bukan plasma itu yang kami cari. Bukan itu yang kami minta. Bukan uang yang kami minta. Tapi kembalikan tanah air kami.
Okay. Mbak Palupi, one more short movie ya, one more short movie. And I will
Okay, Miss Ika.
about the climate change for the role of the indigenous people in the climate change. Wait a second.
Okay, Miss Ika, you have maybe approximately 10 minutes to display short movie, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay. And then I will just close the presentations. Wait a second.
If not, then
Oh, sorry. Or I think I forgot the. Wait a minute. Okay. I will continue about the my closing presentations, Mbak Anjani.
Okay, Mbak Ika, do you want to have a conclusion maybe for your presentation or
Yeah.
closing remarks? before we start the question and answer.
Okay. So this is the effect of the deforestations toward the animal welfare, especially orangutan, about the issue of palm oil. And then speaking about the future generation at risk, maybe we can discuss it later about the pandemic situations now that we are facing. And then environmental and economic growth, because along with the economic growth, there is a price that we should pay regarding our environment. And then demography, well, the growth of the populations is also giving the impacts for the environments. And then industrializations, the big bang adoptions in our industry, it's also giving the effect. There is a good impact and also a bad impact of the industrializations. And then the last one, this is the challenge for Indonesia about the climate change, waste and sewage management system, the flood, clean waters, clean airs, green space, green open space, eco-friendly lifestyle, and then trafficking of protected animals. And this is the Indonesian opportunities on environmental issue, first by supporting more sustainable recovery, enhancing land and seabed actions, support environmental protections and climate objectives, and then enhancing resource mobilizations to support environment protections and climate objective, for instance, using the smart city or digital government. This is the cross-border issue that we can later discuss is about the transboundary air pollution, and then the protections of the marine environment is about pollutions and fishery, and then the aviations and maritime transport. In the end of my presentations, I will not conclude anything. Instead of I'm waiting for us to have fruitful discussions. Thank you. Mbak the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Baika, for our fruitful discussion today. Before we started, before we started question and answer, Ms. Ika also showed us the importance of law in the context of environmental politics and government. Ms. Ika also showed us the impact of industrialization, heavy industrialization in Kalimantan, especially in rural area, in peatlands area, and the impact of palm oil industrialization conflict, and also the community people or indigenous people or masyarakat adat with business sector, especially the big actor in business sector and their conflict, and how the government as the maybe the one who stipulated law to make sure that indigenous people doesn't being left behind on the globalized era. Okay, for the operator or timekeeper, is it right to start the question and session answer? Okay, now before we started our session again for games and question and answer session, maybe we have a break for 15 minutes. So if the speaker or even the audience want to have rest for a while or a sholat zuhur maybe, or a quick break, maybe we can start it again at jam berapa, Mbak? Okay, for 15 minutes already by now. Okay, for the speakers and maybe for the participant, you have 15 minutes for quick rest. Oh, yeah.
Oke, Mbak Palupi, saya break dulu ya. I have my break time. Oke, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Ika and Miss Palpi, for the very insightful presentation. And I really can't wait for the further discussion with Miss Ika. But before we move on to the next session, let me introduce myself and my partner here. Hello, everyone. My name is Zeta Mardatila, and my partner, Mikta Ismail, as your master of ceremony in the session.
Yes, and we're terribly sorry for the inconvenience that we had earlier regarding some technical issues. But yeah, let's just carry on with today's amazing session. So yeah, as you mentioned earlier that the presentation was really great by Ms. Vika and being moderated by Ms. Palupia.
Yep.
Okay, we're really really focused enjoying the presentations until we forget that we've been here for almost 2 hours.
Wow, okay.
So I think we need some kind of relaxation to refresh our minds.
Some fresh air, probably.
So we can have a better discussion session after this.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I really agree with that. We gotta move our body and get some fresh air. But for that, so let's play some games.
Sure. Right. So for the operator, maybe we can see the game presentation.
All right. Okay. What is it about, Mikdan?
Right. So as we can see here, music quiz.
Yep.
So today's game will be called Guess the Song. So this game invites all the students, all the participants to guess song title based on the sounds given in the PowerPoint. The sounds are the clue for the students in defining the title of the song. So this game will be divided into 2 levels.
Okay.
First level will be an easy level, which in this easy level, if the students are able to guess the right title of the song, they will be given 1 point.
Okay, only 1 point because it's easy peasy.
Yes, easy peasy, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, in the next level, in medium level, if the students are able to guess the right title of the songs, the students will be given 2 points. Wow.
Oh, wow, because it's harder, right? It's medium. It's medium.
Double the points, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. In this game, it will consist of 10 questions. Students are given 1.5 minutes to answer each question. So you guys only have to guess the song without any additional information, but only the sound provided in the PowerPoint data.
Yep.
Yes. So the score of the game of each student will be counted, and in the end of the program, there will be some awards for the students who give the best participations completed with additional certificate from the summer course.
Oh, sorry. So it's will be not only the games, but also there's an additional certificate. So it's a big deal, actually, Mikdad.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry. Okay. So by the way, don't forget to raise your hand if you know the title of the songs later in the game, and
stay focused.
Yeah, and let's just get into it.
Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, we can probably play the game.
Yep. Okay, so got the instruction.
Yep, guess the singer and title. Keep
singer.
your eyes focused.
Okay, let's listen to the song carefully, guys. Okay, we're really sorry for the technical issues.
Okay, participants, we're really sorry for these technical issues right here. We tried to fix it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we have an answer
So
here.
probably we can do a countdown, yeah, Zeta, yeah, for you guys to raise hand.
But like there is a one participant that already answered the questions.
Yeah.
This is Sophie Yasmin in the chat room, Mikdad.
Okay, Sophie Yasmin, one last time Ariana Grande.
So we're gonna reveal
That's
the answer.
Yeah, I
We're
don't
gonna
know.
try to
I'm
find out.
not really sure. Let's see.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, let's see the answer. Yeah.
Yay! Congratulations.
Sophia, right?
Yep, Sophie Yasmin. And for the participants, for the next time, you can raise your hand.
Yep. Don't
You can
forget to
raise your hand.
first.
Yep, and we can choose you, and you're gonna speak. What is the title of the song?
So we're going to have a countdown, and by then you guys can raise your hand to answer the question.
Probably they can raise their hand as soon as possible.
Oh, that's the rules?
Yeah.
Oh,
as soon
okay,
as possible.
my bad. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then maybe we can move on to the next question. Yeah,
All right. Good.
Okay. Okay.
I'm hurting, baby. I'm broken down. I need your loving, I need it now. When I'm without you, I'm something weak. You got me begging, I'm on my knees. I wanna be needing your love, I just wanna be deep in your love, and it's killing me when you're away. Oh, baby.
Wow, I was jamming with this song earlier, Zeta. 'Cause it was, it was a nice, cool to vibes with.
Yep,
Nice songs.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's an easy song. So
We have Pfizer here.
Yeah,
Probably we can call Pfizer, right?
Maroon 5, Sugar.
Yep.
Yep.
It's Sugar from Roma. Is it correct?
I think it could be.
It could be. So let's find out.
Let's see. Wow, nice.
Congratulations.
Yes, Maroon 5, Sugar by Maroon 5.
I think everyone knew that.
Yeah, I think it's a familiar song for all of us, yeah.
Yep. It's really fun song.
Okay, so we got 1 point for Faiza and 1 point
here.
for Sophie Yasmin earlier.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Let's go.
All right.
Wow, we have Sophie again here. Oh no, Nur Farhana M Nur. Right?
Okay, Nur Farhana. Yes, Nur Farhana. I'm
Joji Glimpse of Us. It seems like they really know this song just from Yep. Yeah, exactly.
It's very trending right now, yeah? In
Yeah.
TikTok, everywhere.
Is it true? Is it true?
I don't know.
We're gonna find out.
That's right.
Let's see. Yep.
Oh, yes.
yeah,
It
it
is.
is.
By Joji.
By Joji.
Yes.
So it's 1 point for Nur Farhana.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Okay.
We want to say goodnight to you.
Holding me back, gravity's holding me back. I want you to hold out the palm of your hand.
Oh,
All right. It seems like so much participants here that participated. Probably we can call one of them. So it's MY_Kuro.
Kuro. Yeah, I think from Malaysia.
Hello.
Hi, Kuro.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So what's your answer to the sound that were played earlier?
It was by Harry Styles.
As it was by Harry Styles.
Is it true?
I don't know, I'm not sure. How can you guess that it is As It Was by Harry Styles?
I have the entire album on repeat.
Oh wow! You had the entire album on repeat.
Okay.
So you're
It's a
big
fan.
a big Harry Styles fan or a big
one.
One Direction fan?
Yep.
Or both?
Both, probably.
Maybe a little
Probably
bit
both.
of both.
A little bit of both.
Both.
Okay, thank you, Kuro. So
Why don't we leave it at that?
Let's find out.
It
Oh,
is.
yay.
Nice job, by
Congratulations, Kuro.
Yes, thank you, Kuro.
Okay, we're gonna move into the next one.
Okay, so it's been equal for every participant, yeah?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, next one.
Loving can hurt. Loving can hurt sometimes, but it's the only thing that I know. When it gets hard, you know it can get hard sometimes.
Okay.
Hi.
Right.
Well,
Very heartbreaking song for us, eh?
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're a sad boy.
That was being very,
What
you know,
is
like
that?
nostalgic with her
Oh,
ex or something.
Oh my God, no, don't say that here. So it's Sophie Yasmin again.
Oh, wow.
Ed Sheeran photograph.
Action photograph.
So we're gonna find out.
Is it correct? Oh, yeah, it is. Photograph by Ed Sheeran. Really
Congratulations,
nice song to listen to.
Sophie. Yep. But Mikdad, sadly, this is our last game because
Okay.
because we have to go back to the Q&A sessions.
Right.
So we're gonna move on, right?
Okay.
Alright,
And
thank
congratulations for
the winner.
it was Sophie, yeah? Yeah. Congratulations to Sophie, by the way.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you also, Kamita, for the exciting game that we just played earlier. So it is also really refreshing, right, Mikdad?
Yeah, it was very refreshing for all of us. I think all of our friends and us all here are ready to have a great discussion after this with Miss Ika and Miss Palupi. So before we begin, let me inform that this Q&A session will be an open forum for everyone that would like to discuss anything regarding to the class topic. So for all the students and participants who would like to ask, you may raise your hand and wait until the moderator gives you the chance to speak, and you may deliver your question or opinion. Students are also able to deliver the question through the public chat box in our Zoom meeting below.
Okay, so this is Q&A session will be a worthwhile chance because all the students have the chance to have a direct discussion with our esteemed speaker, Miss Ika. So without further ado, let me fast on the screen back to our respectable moderator, Miss Palupi, for guiding and leading us in this Q&A session. So Miss Palupi, the screen and time are yours now.
Okay, thank you, Zeta and Midlat. Before we started our question and answer session, Miss Ika, are you already in our Zoom meeting today? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Miss Ika. I hope you have a little break after maybe 15 minutes before we started our discussion for question and answer. Okay. Is it alright if I started the session now, Miss Ika?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. For the participant, it seems that we have one question, Ms. Ika. You enjoy your coffee?
Yeah.
Okay, we have two questions apparently for the early session. At first, from Salma from Indonesia. She asked about your opinion related to the ecocide law. Some people think the lawsuit and fines against corporation is not enough to protect the environment. Do you think it is necessary and possible to make environmental destruction an international crime along with genocide, war crimes, and etc.? Is it from Salma? Ms. Ika. Do you want to read the question first, or you want to answer the
Okay,
question by
I
one
will
by one?
answer one by one.
Okay.
Okay. The first is thank you, Salma Nurhuda. Hi, Bu Ika. Thank you for. My name is Salma. I would like to ask your opinion. What is your view about ecocide law? Ecocide law. Some people think that lawsuit and fines against corporations is not enough to protect their environments. Do you think it is necessary and possible to make environmental destructions an international crime along with genocide or war crimes? Yes, I do agree with it to be an international crime, but we have a problem, what we call as legal sovereignty, as law sovereignty. We need to consider about the legal implications if we are supporting this ecocide to be international crimes. When it is becoming international crime, when there is a cases which can be defined or which can be what is called classified as the ecocide, so we must to submit the cases before the International Ad Hoc Tribunal. And according to the complementarity principle, it means that our state is unable and unwilling to prosecute about the environmental destructions. So instead of putting the ecocide into the international crime, why we are not revisited our environmental law? And I think we still can consider it, this ecocide, to be an extraordinary crime under the transnational law. So still we can prosecute the corporations that are doing ecocide, including if we are speaking for international crime, there is no way that corporations can be prosecuted because in international crime, the individual will be prosecuted. So if we want to prosecute the actors of ecocide, it means that the individual behind the corporations, it means that we have to implement what we call as the corporate piercing the corporate veil. Maybe the commissioner, maybe the board of director, but if this people is also the Indonesian citizen, we might also consider about the file trials. So putting the ecocide into the international crimes, yeah, it might be considerable, but there is other implications that we also should put a deep considerations about it. That is Sama. That's why if you want to make these questions to be your research topic, I think it would be interested because this would be like you will like make pro cons discussions about the ecocide from your perspective or from the paradigm that you will use to discuss about the ecocide, whether it is can be included into transnational or international crime. Thank you, Sama. That is a brilliant questions. And then Sophie Yasmin. Okay, you have, well, this is a lot. Some questions. I want to ask the questions if there is environmental law specified as a control approach toward water's pollutions. Oh, there is. I already explained. There is government regulations on what is called on implementations of the management. Wait a second. This, about the government regulation number 22, 2020, in here, as I explained before, that in the government regulations on, wait a second. They also regulate about the water quality protections management. Yeah. Or if I made answering in bahasa, di dalam peraturan pemerintah nomor 22 tahun 2021 mengenai perlindungan dan pengelolaan mutu air. This is about water quality and protections management. We already have the regulations. And also if for the water that it is daily use for what is called for consumptions, we also have regulations under the Ministry of Health and also under the BPOM. This BPOM is under the Ministry of Health. There is a lot of regulations regarding water consumptions. And regarding water pollutions, there is also regulations under the beside the government regulations, also under the Ministry of the Environment and also the local government. They have the control of the environmental regulations that specified as a control approach toward water pollutions. For how much that the pollutant can be thrown into the river, it should be managed under the AMDAL if you have a company. You can see these regulations. You can search these regulations because there is a regulations that how many ppm that of the pollutant that can be what is called can be waste into the river or into the sea. Is there any cases regarding polluted by waste from industrial becoming major issue in Indonesia? Well, it's a lot. It's a lot, especially from the industry area. In Java, in Kalimantan, in Jakarta, you see Ciliwung, you see Citarum. Well, that's part of this problem. And how the local government tackles the hazardous waste in industrial area? Well, they establish what we call as local regulations. We call it as Perda, peraturan daerah. They have their own environment local agency, kantor lingkungan hidup, that supervise the industry, supervise the activities under the territory of the local governments, under the area of the local governments. So if they found something, they will get to what is called to scrutinize the institutions or the company. And then the next question, if there is any system or step that Indonesia implementing SDG 6 as development strategy of purpose the human right to water and sanitation. Yes, Indonesia already made proposed the act of regarding the water resources. You can search maybe in the Google about the water resources, the regulations. This is related to the human rights, to how the water management, especially in the urban area or in the agriculture area, to avoid the conflict, the horizontal conflict among the society or society with the company or society with the government. And regarding about the sanitary, there are also regulations for the government for the sanitary. I don't think so. This is not sanitation. Sanitation is something else, I guess. Human right to water and sanitation is under the Ministry of Health. They have the regulations about the sanitations, about the management, for instance, the medical waste, how to manage it before it is it is dissolved to the nature. So we already have compacted rule regarding the environmental law in the level central government, national government, and also even in the ministry. So that's all, Sophie, Yasmin. Thank you for your questions. I think this is also interesting if you want to write about the SDG 6 as development strategy or purposes to human right to water, the management of water resources. I think it's very interesting because water is very important to the life. And the next from MY Nurhana M. Nur. Hi, Nur. Thank you for your questions. Regarding implementations of the environmental policy and law in Indonesia, there are any actions taken against such manufacturing industry that illegally dump chemical waste in the river. For instance, the issue arose in Citarum River. Yeah, some of them already given sanctions, administrative sanctions. The government invoked their license, so they cannot operate again their factory or their industry. Or even the government also punish them to pay a certain amount of fine, and also ask them to deliver remedy for the environment surrounding Citarum, or ask them to contribute with their GSR to clean up the river. That is all, Nur. Maybe we can discuss more. Thank you for joining this summer course from Malaysia. And then I think it's all, Mbak Palupi.
Okay, Ms. Eka, because you already said to the committee that you are unavailable after 12 and 15, maybe I can resume a glimpse of our discussion today. They are very active participants from our attendee today, range for how far the state is willing to bring, eco site around, because as Ms. Ika said, the state often unwilling and incapable to bring this kind of crimes to maybe the court, international court of justice or something like that, because we should accuse the actor behind the business sector. Is it right, Ms. Ika?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Ika also provide to the participant who asked related to this question. It's like how far Indonesian government protect our water resources as happened in Citarum, because as we know, the Ministry of Environment or Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup also declared the Citarum incident as kejadian luar biasa, since there are many aspects, not only the environment but also the economic sector and demography in West Java are affected because of the man-made disaster. Okay, Ms. Ika also related our discussion about the role of indigenous people in climate change, because they are 6% of global population and but become 19% of global poverty. She also gave a glimpse of knowledge to us about the problem related to their language that will be extinct if there is no intervention from the state or the government. She also highlight the problem of land and national resources, inadequacy in law and recognition, especially in masyarakat adat or masyarakat adat or indigenous people, and the customary ownership versus formal or individual ownership. So I think this discussion are come to the closing session. But before we started to close our meeting, maybe from the committee, do you want to have a photo session with Ms. Ika and all participants? Okay, wait a minute, Ms. Ika. Maybe we want to have capturing your session with our participants. And all the participants who are able to turn on their camera, please turn on your camera for the photo session.
Okay, everyone, let me guide the photo session. So this is for the first slide. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and this is going to be for the second slide. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for Miss Ika for your insightful actualization about environment and law and the government role in this summer course. Maybe after this session, do you have any another session for the computer? Is it all right? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ika, for your participation in our summer course, and I hope we can discuss later about your interesting topic with all the participants, and this discussion do not end in this session. Thank you for all the participants, all the committee, and especially for Ms. Ika. Thank you, everyone, and we will meet again on 3 p.m. in this afternoon. Thank you. Selamat siang.
Thank you, Mbak Palpi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Okay,
See you
assalamualaikum.
soon.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Palupi. And ladies and gentlemen, we finally have reached the end of the event. And thank you so much for Ms. Ika Riswanti Putranti for the insightful presentation. And thank you for Ms. Palupi Anggrahini for leading the discussion session. And we hope the session will be beneficial for all of us.
Right. On behalf of the organizing committees, I would like to apologize if we have done any mistakes throughout the event. Once again, thank you everyone for gracing our ceremony with your presence. We truly and deeply appreciate it. We wish you all a very beautiful day today and see you guys in the next session. Good day, everyone.